Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, and welcome to the show. My name is Stuart Andrew Alexander. And you know something? I was reading an online article by Brown University, Rhode Island, which stated that in 1868, yes, as far back as 1868, psychic researcher Frederick Myers declared the best way to read other people's minds, which we know very little about, is not to set to work imagining what they are likely to feel, but to tell them what one feels oneself. And in an online opinion survey by the American Psychiatric Association, a combination of 228 professors and residents in psychiatry, other medical faculty, and deans of medical schools were asked, should psychic studies be included in psychiatric education? To which 58%, imagine that, 58% of the respondents believed that an understanding of psychic phenomena is important to future graduates of psychiatry, and 44% believed that psychic factors were important in the healing process. And finally, in another article, the Journal of Spirituality and Paranormal Studies asked the question, how do we define psychic? Now, with so much readily available information out there, it can be challenging even for the most experienced of us to grasp a clear understanding of this widely discussed but often misunderstood topic, which is why we've invited an expert to come in and speak in more depth around the issue of psychic studies. And who better to discuss that with but none other than psychic medium and spiritual coach, Elly Charles. Now, she's a very, very busy lady. I always see her online posting lots of good stuff and speaking with all of her followers. So I don't want to keep her waiting a moment longer and welcome her to the show. Amazon best-selling author of the Ignite Your Light, Awaken Your Soul book, Elly Charles. Welcome to the show, Elly.
Hello, Stuart. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, my dear. I've been so excited to have you on the show, so I'm so glad that you found the time out of your busy day to speak with us today.
Oh, thank you. I've been looking forward to it.
Okay, so Elly, Brown University, the American Psychiatric Association, and the Journal of Spirituality and Paranormal Studies all refer to the overarching topic of psychic studies in different ways. Now, based on your experience, what is your definition of psychic studies?
Okay, Stuart. So based on my experiences, I've attended, obviously, the College of Psychic Studies. I've also attended International Academy of Consciousness and the Arthur Findlay College of Spirituality as well. I would say from what I've learned through my own sort of like experiences and through what I've learned through those various colleges is that the psychic studies is more of an energy. It's more an energy that we use to draw down and to understand exactly how we're feeling or how others are feeling and exactly what is going on for that person. So there's very much sort of like telepathy and, you know, aspects like that come very much into psychic studies. It's different from mediumship because mediumship is more based on connection with spirit, connection with those that have passed over. So those that are now no longer with their physical form. So the psychic is more of the energy of our psyche that we are drawing in and using either to help ourselves within our own life or to help others with their lives.
Now, I understand that as a psychic medium and spiritual coach, that you can obviously help a number of people with a number of issues. However, who is your ideal client and what kind of situations do they usually find themselves in when they come to you for your help?
Okay, yeah. So firstly, an ideal client would be someone who would be feeling quite lost within their life, maybe feeling quite stuck within sort of who they are or what they feel like that they need to do. I have a lot of people come to me who are very much in a transition of sort of, you know, that crossroads feeling where they're feeling like they need answers and they're not understanding fully how to get those answers themselves. So that would be usually the people who come to me and that would be in a sense of either needing guidance or a reading or actually needing to learn spiritually.
And in these times that we find ourselves in now, then, Elly, are you finding that you're getting more than a usual number of people coming to you who are feeling lost, stuck, or in that transitional phase you just mentioned?
Yes, definitely, especially with obviously, things like lockdown and things like that. It's caused a lot more sort of crossroads sort of feelings for people. So I have had a lot more people. But it's interesting because, yes, there's been people who are wanting guidance and they just want to know that their lives are going to be okay. But there has been a much bigger influx of people wanting to learn and wanting to delve into their own spirituality as well, more than ever before.
Okay, so with that said then, what are some of the first steps for someone who is feeling lost in a cloud of confusion, as you put it in your own words, and trying to understand who they are and why they're actually here on Earth? What should they actually do then, Elly?
So the first steps would be actually acknowledging, to start with, that they're feeling lost, understanding that there is something different that they're feeling, and being okay with that, because what a lot of us will do is we will resist or we will block the understanding, or that we need to gain more knowledge. Some of us will be scared of it as well. And again, that's another step, is to not fear this, to not be scared. It's not, a lot of people see it as very woo-woo, or they might just think, ghosts knocking about around and about and things like that. But it's not actually all to do with that. It's very much about taking it on and really delving into this. So when we talk about the first steps, I think that would be the sort of the basic first steps. Obviously, if you're then going to delve into learning, there would very much be a process that you would need to take, depending on what area of spirituality you are interested in or you're finding yourself drawn to.
So if I'm taking my first steps into the area of psychic studies then, Elly, and I'm one of these people who has this sense that I've read in your book, you talk about people who have a sense that there's something different about themselves, right? That they don't quite understand, that they're feeling lost, or they're kind of a little bit scared. You just mentioned the fear. They're scared about what they think, feel, or see, or even having a sense of feeling left in the dark. If I'm somebody like that, how can I actually begin to understand what is going on with that kind of energy?
Yeah, so how you would begin to understand once you've got past that sort of like acknowledgement of, right, I know that there's something else out there. I know that I feel different. I know that I've always sort of, had these instincts or this intuition, or I just know, and this stuff just comes true. So what you would do is you would then seek to look for someone who you have a good vibe about. Obviously you have to trust your intuition, and you would seek to obviously gain knowledge from this person and potentially start doing various techniques and learn those, practice those, put them into place. So you are starting to unfold and you're starting to understand the different links to which it takes to understand our psyche in much more depth. And then obviously when that happens, then you just watch everything unfold and it just starts becoming more and more clear. Sometimes it can happen very fast. Sometimes it can go in more of a slow pace. It's all according to what's sort of, assigned to you in this life and what you're up for doing.
What does it actually mean to discover your clairs? Because I saw that in the book and I didn't know what that is, because obviously it's outside of my realm of expertise. What does it mean to discover your clairs?
This is exactly why I wrote the book, and this is what I've been teaching for the last 3 years. But before that, I was delving into my own clairs, and I talked very much about how I became very, very hungry to understand what the clairs were. And I realised there was a gap in, or if you look on Google, yes, you can find a list of the clairs and a brief sort of description of what each one of them are, but actually there is so much more knowledge to be learned regarding the clairs. So to put it simply, the clairs are 7 senses that we have within our energy stream, which also benefit our physical and practical lives as well. Each 7 clairs will work with our psyche, but they will also work with our mediumistic side as well, because it's important to remember that mediumistic and psychic are 2 different parts of energy that can work within us, and we can all have these senses. And it would be things like seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, feeling, sensing, knowing. So lots of different senses there.
I know that you feel it's absolutely essential to have an in-depth knowledge of the internal clear seeing aspects of clairvoyance, and you even go as far as teaching that inside of your book. However, how important is it to have an external clear seeing? Why is that so? And can you share an example so that our listeners can gain a better understanding?
Yes, that's a really good question. So, yes, of course, it is very, very important with the clear internal seeing. And this is one of the more common clairs that the majority of people will hold. You know, things like dreaming and having a memory is a form of internal clear seeing. So it happens very often within many of us. But the external clear seeing is different because when we look at it on an energy point of view or a spiritual point of view, it won't be as common. So, for example, an external clear seeing would be seeing something spiritual, so something that does not feel of this realm, of this world, of the physical, actually out of our body. Okay, so we're in our body and we see it outside. So, you know, when you see cars and buses going by, it won't be similar to that, but it's outside of our body with our eyes wide open, and we will see something not of this world. Does that make sense? So
it does, yes.
Orbs. Maybe we might see auras around people with our eyes open. We might see spirit or flashes of light. We might see shadows or movement in the atmosphere. You know, anything sort of like that. That is externally clear seeing. Now, the important thing to remember is this can scare people, and this is what does scare a lot of people. But actually, we are all energy. You know, spirit is energy. They just have the non-physical now. Does that make sense? So once our physical is gone, where do we go? People sometimes think, oh, we're just dead, but actually we have our spirit body within inside our physical body. So we still live on. Does this make sense? Our energy still lives on.
I mean, again, this is outside my realm of my experience, but from when I think on a personal level about life in of itself and just how complex the life is and just how beautiful this world is, there has to be something more than just the things on the physical realm. There has to be so much more. And I'm not talking about religion or anything here. I do believe there is something on a spiritual level that we on this plane that we're on that we don't see with the naked eye, but it is always there with us. And I think for the listener out there who has these external seeings, as you call it, I think it's really important just to amplify that message, what you just shared with us, that it is quite normal and there's nothing to be afraid of, and that to actually go to people like yourself who can help them to understand what is actually going on, and that is quite normal. Am I making sense with what I'm saying here, Elly?
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. It is, to me, it is the most normal thing. So I was speaking to the non-physical, you know, those that have passed on since I was the age of 4. And I didn't realize when I was 4, but then when I sort of grew into a teenager, I realized that that's what was happening and that's what I was doing. And yes, there was a few, you know, bits that I was seeing externally that it did scare me. But then when I actually started to realize the background of the energy and the feel of that external that I was seeing, I actually realized this isn't scary. This is actually just energy in whichever way it's presenting itself to me, and I don't have to fear this because it's nothing dark, it's nothing evil, it's actually very normal.
Can we talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions surrounding the field that you work in? Because if anybody goes online and, you know, there's so much information you can find online about any topic, but if someone's interested in finding out a little bit more about psychic studies, there's got to be information that's accurate and information that's not so accurate. So in your experience, what are some of the common misconceptions surrounding psychic studies and in the field that you work in?
So I would say, obviously, some of the common misconceptions would definitely be what we should talk about, the fear. You know, a lot of people think, oh, I'm scared, oh, I don't, you know, it's dangerous, there's evil, it's playing with fire. So there's quite a lot of that. And I think, obviously, depending on what type of culture you've been brought up in, or maybe what type of sort of family you've had, or, sort of the socializing that you've had around you, this can all have like an impact on how you perceive things. It depends on how you were told about certain things, if that would make sense. So that would definitely be a common misconception. Another one would be that it's all a load of rubbish. A lot of people, think that psychics or mediums are frauds, or they rip you off, or they're just, wanting your money, and they're just going to tell you everything you think you want to hear, and things like that. Unfortunately, maybe there are people out there that have done that, but there are also some very, very genuine people as well. But when we come to that misconception, the way I see it is as I repeat myself, we are all energy. So we all have the ability to listen to the energies, to feel the energies, to see the energies, and to know parts of the future, or to feel spirit, or feel the presence of a loved one that's passed over visiting. We all have that ability. It's just some of us become more in tune to it than others. Some of us end up working within that, and some of us don't. I think that's all according to what's along our soul purpose, and whether we're meant to go down that route. But we have to remember, we are all energy at the end of the day, so we all have the ability to do that.
So, Elly, with that said, then let me ask you this: if I am somebody who does have this natural, what's the word I'm looking for? If I'm able to see things, but I don't know what's going on because I don't have any experience with it. I mean, you've mentioned you've been, having this kind of experience since you were 4 years old, and maybe there's someone listening to this in the future who's in a similar situation. They've been having these experiences for years, but don't understand it. Is there any danger in them suppressing that natural ability and not, going to someone like yourself to learn how to manage that, how to maintain it, how to benefit from it, how to share it? Is there a danger in that and suppressing it?
Yes, definitely. Quite a few of my students that sort of come to me, they have suppressed it throughout the years. I recently had a lady come to me, and she's 65, and she's pretty much said her whole life she felt like there was something there that she wanted to explore, but she just couldn't seem to do it at a certain stage in her life. And now she feels like she's ready to delve into it and really, and she's doing really well as well. And it's completely changed her life. And so that just shows that, for whatever reason, I think it was to do with her upbringing and things like that. When you're younger and you get told certain things, it can really create a certain pattern, even if you do feel different, or even if you do feel like there's something, but it can create a pattern. So sometimes you can think, well, maybe I'm just a bit crazy, or maybe I'm just silly, maybe that's not for me, all of that, those types of things, really.
So again, for example, if I'm coming to you, Elly, what questions should I be asking you to determine whether I should work with you or not?
So I think, this I find interesting, because for me, as I say, I talk about energy a lot. So I think it's actually about the energy. You should ask what you feel you need to ask. A conversation needs to be had with a professional that you were possibly thinking about working with, and a conversation needs to be had so they can understand what exactly is that's going on for you or for that person. So one, they can know if they can help you and guide you, but two, the person can get a good vibe off of that person and think, right, actually, I feel like I like them, and I feel like I can actually go forward and work with them. But I suppose, if we put it down to particular questions instead of energy, if I was a beginner, I'd probably be thinking about asking, how is this happening to me? Or why is this happening to me? And seeking sort of some of the answers in that respect.
Thank you, Elly. I'm sure that's going to be really useful for some of the listeners out there. Now, I know we've touched a little bit on some of the topics covered within your book. However, what was it that led you to write it? I'm sure you just didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, I'm just going to write a book. There must have been a chain of events that led up to that. So what was it that led you to write it? And once someone reads and follows the tips inside of the book, what is it that you actually want them to come away with?
Okay, yeah, so this makes me smile. So firstly, what led me to write it was actually, obviously, just I was going about in my my day-to-day life, my career, it's always been quite a spiritual life. I was already working as a medium. I was already teaching. And it was about, I'd say about 3 years ago, I kept seeing a yellow front cover of a book, and my grandmother had passed, and she kept saying to me, write this book. So I was like, okay, I'm writing. I was writing little bits and bobs. I didn't really know what I was writing about yet, but I was just writing. And that kept happening over a period of sort of like the next few months after she passed. And eventually I was like, Grandma, you keep telling me to write, but I don't have a clue what I'm writing about or how to write. I wouldn't have the foggiest about how to publish a book or any of that. So I said to her, you must show me a very strong sign, which I really take on board and I really notice that makes me make action. The next morning I woke up and I found myself suddenly being tagged on Facebook in a live with a publisher who was talking about the benefits of writing your own book. So I was like, wow, that is the sign. So I watched this and I signed up for like a writing course, writing retreat thing. And it just sort of went from there. And that's how the journey of creating my book came into motion and actually came into the physical. So it was fully guided by my grandmother, and I wrote an actual chapter about that and about my grandma and all the things and all the signs she's shown me since, and how that has benefited me and my career and my life and things like that. So that's basically how I came about it. It's really exciting.
That's
and interesting.
Fascinating, really fascinating,
Yeah,
right?
because I never thought, up until sort of like, especially 2 years ago, I did not, for someone who's psychic, I didn't think I would be an author, but that's how quick, over the space of 2 years, it actually started coming into play, and I started feeling like it was becoming more and more real until eventually now my book is here, and, it's been an amazing journey. So that's in response to your first part of the question. The second part is when people read it. I've already had lots of people come back with how they've got on with the things that I've been teaching in, and they've had some brilliant results from it, which is great to hear. But what I would love for people who read the book to take away from is to just feel like they've had a shift in some way, or to just feel that they know that they are receiving something that they've been longing for, something that they've been asking. Because as I said, I used to feel very in the dark, and I didn't have those tutors, I didn't have those people to guide me with certain areas of this. So I had to understand myself. I had to teach myself and learn on my own a lot of the time. So that is kind of what I'm looking to do for people, is to just fill in the gaps for people, or if they want more, they can receive more and go the full leg, basically. Brilliant shifts and upgrades I want to bring for people.
On the topic of your book, how can we find out more, firstly, about you, and how can people get a copy of your book, Ignite Your Light, Awaken Your Soul?
So to find out about myself, you can go to my website, ellycharlesmediumship.com, or I am also Elly Charles Psychic Medium on Instagram, and the same on Facebook, Elly Charles Psychic Medium on Facebook as well. You can find me there on those social media sites. But to get a copy of my book, you can get it on Amazon, and it's on Kindle or it's on paperback. So I'd head over to Amazon and grab a copy.
Well, perfect, Elly. We're coming towards the end of our little conversation today, and you shared some really helpful tips. So on behalf of our listeners, I just want to thank you for that. However, before we depart on our merry ways, I just want to ask you, are there any other insights that you'd like to share? Any final little tidbits before you go?
I think I just always like to share this, and it's just basically about our soul and just about really listening to our soul. A lot more people are waking up. When you said at the start, sort of, has there been more people over the sort of current circumstances in the last year coming forward for this type of thing? And it is because more and more people are waking up. So whether that's just to receive the guidance or to actually learn how to tune yourself in, it can only bring positives and benefits, not just for your spiritual energy, but for your physical and your practical life as well. So really listen to your soul, and if your soul is pulling you, it's trying to tell you to do something. It's trying to guide you in the next stage of your life. And if you can listen, then you will just bring so much more things to you that you deserve in your life. So that's what I like to sort of leave people with.
And what a great note to finish our conversation on. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for spending so much of your valuable time with us today, Elly. It's been absolutely great talking to you.
Thank you, Stuart. It's been really, really fun chatting with you as well.
You're so welcome, Elly, my dear. And that's it for now, folks. Don't forget that if you ever find yourself feeling lost in a cloud of confusion, trying to understand why you are actually here on this place we call Earth, and you have a keen interest in your spiritual journey and want to explore your enlightenment rather than being afraid of it, then you definitely 100% need to check out Elly Charles's book. It's called Ignite Your Light and Awaken Your Soul. And once again, it's available on Amazon and in other leading bookstores nationwide. We'll also have a link to the book in the show notes somewhere on this page. So have a look around there. I'm sure you'll find a link to it. But until next time, this has been your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander, with my very, very special guest, Elly Charles, saying thank you, take care, and we'll talk real soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.